Welcome to DUBBZI Bricks. In front of me here I have some components of the Game of Bricks lights. In some previous videos I've had some comments saying how people have found the techniques useful, and I thought I'd just do a little video just showing some different techniques that I've used and some that I'm just experimenting with for my Gotham city. When I first started adding lights to my city, I was a little bit overwhelmed by it. I was a little bit concerned about how difficult it was going to be. But as soon as I started getting involved with it, I realised how much fun they can be and how much they transform your mocks. So I'm just going to go over a couple of amendments I'm going to be making, which I'm hoping is going to enhance the mocks. But also how you can go about installing your lights and reduce the risk of damaging the cables as well. Now, I'm sure these cables are perfectly strong enough. However, I do like to be ultra careful with it. So I'm just going to show you the first thing I do with the lights. So here we have a base plate, and I'm going to be showing you in a moment a Mills plate idea here. Now, one of the most important things for me are keeping all of the cables nice and tidy so they're not getting the risk of them getting caught on something else or getting damaged. And with these wires, they are so thin, you can quite easily tile or plate over the top of them. You can put them between two items and they are absolutely fine. Now, one thing I'd never do is push right down on this. You do run the risk of crushing the wire, so I do try to avoid this if I can. Now, very often I'm working on things where it's more than one plate thick. So if I am, for example, going to be plating and tiling, I tend to use studs. Now, these work out perfectly due to the shape of them. Where you've got this slight ridge, the wire fits perfectly between them. So if I just put a row of these down here and then just put the cable on one side of it, you can then attach the stud the other side. So now the wire is nicely underneath the studs, but it can also move along as well. There's nothing putting any pressure at all on the cable. Then all I do is go along afterwards and then put the next item on top of it. So now you've got a perfectly protected wire and it's all kept nice and tidy. Now, the other good thing as well with this, if you've got a wire that's just that little bit too long, you can then continually wrap these around the studs, individual studs. So it's almost like a snake effect all the way around there until you've used up all of the excessive wire that you have there. So I have found that this is a very useful technique. I'm so glad that I got a whole load of these off of the pick brick wall a while back. Now, when you're working with a Mills plate, everything's a lot easier as you've got the bricks here which can keep everything in place. So you just pop the wire in between a couple of bricks and then just plate over the top of it, and that's doing the job for you. So you don't need to use the studs in those instances. However, when it gets to actually bringing the wire back up through the Mills plate to, say, a lamppost, that's when it starts to get interesting. And previously, I've been using a round jumper plate, this one here, and it's purely because it has a hole in there. Now, unfortunately, the square ones don't have a hole, and I have been considering drilling a hole in the square ones just so I can get the wire through. And the reason I've been considering drilling a hole in the square one is I don't like these gaps around the circle. I just think it just looks untidy. So I've been trying to find a way to make that look a little bit better. So first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make a lamp up, and then I'm going to show you this technique and one that I'm just going to start experimenting with in this video. When it comes to building a lamp, it always feels like I'm starting at the end of the build, and it's because the bulb won't go through the final part of the build. So we start off by putting the plug in through here. Now, luckily, the bulb is small enough that you can put a stud on the hole covering the bulb up to give the desired effect that you wish to have. So if you want to have a different colour on there, it's quite easy to do so. The next thing we're going to be doing is using a headlight brick. So we'll put the wire through the back of this and through the bottom. And then clip those two together. And you can then put some tiles on the ends if you wish to do so. Then get a 1x1 cylinder piece and put the plug through that and drag that along and connect it together once again. And then get a snot brick. So I'm just going to use the first snot brick I come to, which is one which has got the studs on all four sides. You can use any snot brick because all snot bricks, the studs have holes in them, and we're pushing it through the hole and then down through the bottom of the brick. And then clip that together and get another cylinder piece and feed the plug through that. And there we have the top of our lamp. Next part I'm going to use are these Technic pieces here and Technic pins, and you can use as many of these as you want to get the desired height of your lamp post. Now these lamps obviously are very thick, so I use these in areas like my docks where you would expect an industrial sized lamp, for example. Now the good thing with the Technic pin is it is hollow, so you can slide the wire all the way through that. Then slide the Technic pin into that cylinder at the top. So there we have the top part of our lamp. Next up, we need the snot bricks, which have got the studs on all 4 sides. And I've connected 2 circular studs to the bottom there, which have got the holes in. Now feed the wire through these. It's best to do these one at a time, as the wire can sometimes snag on the ridges inside. So it just makes it a little bit easier for you. Now clip those pieces together, and then we're going to put a tile on the 4 sides of that. So there we have our first lamp post. We then got our jumper plate with the hole in there, so we can push that through the hole like so. And then the next part I've been using is the Technic brick here. So just put the wire through the Technic plate and then connect the 2 together. And then we can attach that to our Mills plate. And there we have it. So these gaps here are the part I want to now look at to see if there's a way that I can lose them with a different building technique. Now there's a new technique that I want to try, and I haven't tried this before, so this is the first time I've actually done it. So we're experimenting whilst we do the video here. So I've got another one of the top parts of the light. I've then got one of these 2 high plate bricks, whatever you want to call them, as they've got the hole in there. So we're just going to put the cable through that part to start with. We've then got one of the snot bricks, again with the studs on 4 sides, with two of the studs on the bottom, and then another snot brick after that. Then we're going to be using a Technic pin, and then another snot brick, but this time up the opposite way. Now what we need to do is just clip all of those together. So the Technic pin is going inside of the bottom of 2 of the snot bricks. And then place the tiles on the side of the snot bricks. Now we've got a stud pointing on the bottom. Now this is where the main change is. We're now going to use a Technic brick, and if we put a tile on one side and then put a plate on the bottom of it, unfortunately I can only find 1 buys at the moment, but they do the same job, and then put the cable through the bottom of the brick. Now I'm not sure if this is classed as an illegal building technique or not, but we're going to use it anyway. We can now attach the stud to the brick. So now we're going to get 2 plates and put them on the Mills plate, and this is what the light is going to be resting on top of. So if we just plate around this. So now what we're going to do is just feed the wire through the Technic hole and then pop that into that stud just there. Let's remove this plate, make it a little bit easier. And then we can put the plate back over here. And then on top of that, we'll just put the 2x, and let's tile all the way around the hole. And now we can just stand the light in there. And there we have the 2 side by side. I much prefer the fact there's no gaps around this. However, it is annoying me a little bit that it's not dead center on the stud that way. This way it's absolutely fine. But due to the fact that the hole in a Technic brick is not dead central, it is a little bit of a problem there. But yeah, happy with how that new technique's worked out. And it does feel a little bit stronger. This one does snap off very easily, whereas that stud connection in the Technic brick is a little bit stronger. And I think I've come across another technique for attaching lampposts to a Mills plate, and it all came about with this part just here. So I was just going to show you a way of getting the cables from below the Mills plate to above without pinching the cable once again. And it's using a rounded plate and then tiling over the top with an L shape and also a quarter circle. And I've also used the Technic brick on the bottom there. And again, that's just so that I can put the wire through. So the idea was going to be that we push this through here, and then this will sit down onto the Mills plate and your cable's coming up through there. So you've got no pinching at all and just a very small hole in the side of the tile there. And this got me thinking about other ways of getting the wire through the hole there. And it all came about using this 2-high plate brick here. And if we attach that to one of these modified plates or rounded plates, however you want to call them, and then add an L-shaped plate on top of that, then add a tile on top of that, we've now pretty much got a nice smooth effect just with the one stud on there. Now on the bottom here, we're just going to build this up a little bit more, as we need this to be the right height for fitting in a Mills plate. So always make sure we keep that stud clear just there. And now we've got the right height here for putting into a Mills plate and actually having the wire come through on the bottom of the lamp. So here we have our lamp that we made earlier, and this was the original version. So we've got the 3 snot bricks all connected together as opposed to having one inverted. And if we just push this wire through the hole here, like that, and then connect the brick to that, we can then just attach that to our Mills plate. And there we have another option for attaching it. Once again, it's not dead center of the brick, but I think I prefer it being a little bit over several tiles than just offset on one of them. So yeah, yet another idea for attaching your lamppost to a Mills plate. And this has to be my favourite product, the Gamer Bricks Sow. It's the wireless connector. It enables you to get power throughout your mock without actually having to clip pieces together. So for example, if you've got 2 floors of a modular building, you don't have to plug the 2 floors together. As long as these 2 are touching, then you have power going from one floor to the other. It's a real game changer, in my opinion, for modular building and lighting them up. Now, with my modulars, I want to have the lights in the ceiling if I can, which means it's on the floor above. So I'm using the Technic plate. I'm just going to make a small structure up here to represent a floor. And then what we need to do is get the light through the hole here. Now with my modulars, I do tile the floors, and this works out perfectly. So once again, we're using the round studs here just to keep the wire all in place. And here we have the floor, and as you can see, the cable moves nice and freely under there, so it's not being squashed at all. And now all we need to do is just tile above the top of this. So this is a really good way of getting your cables all hidden. And again, as a purpose of this video, you're not squeezing them between any plates or bricks, tiles, or any other parts you may happen to be using. So there we have the floor all tiled off and the light coming through the bottom. And the one thing to remember is if you are putting any kind of lampshade in the room, make sure you put that on first, as you won't be able to get it through. You won't be able to get the bulb through the lampshade part of there. So yeah, that's just one part to bear in mind. The other problem you have though when you've got lampshades is your building is always going to be sort of like sat on the lights. You just have to be a little bit careful. If you do it that way around. And here we have the floor, and I've now attached the power connector to the base of the floor. So the connector's on the bottom, then we have the plates and then the tiles. I have amended the red studs underneath the tiles here. They're now coming around in an L shape, and that's just so I can have the cables next to each other. And the reason being is if you use a 2x5 brick, you can actually feed the wires and the connector board up into that. And if you're very careful, you can then actually attach it to the 2 studs there and build around this. So this is part of the wall of the building. So that works perfectly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the wall that this is going to be sitting on top of, and attach the opposite one of these. Now this is another piece I find really useful with my mocks for hiding the cables without them being pinched. And all the examples that I am showing you in this video are for mock building. When you buy a Gamer Bricks light kit for a Lego set, it will have the instructions of how you should be putting the lights into the Lego set properly, or according to the instructions, should I say. But what we're going to do now is I'm just going to get one of these connector boards here ready for the next floor up of a modular building. So once again, we are going to be putting that through one of the Technic holes here on the Technic plate. And then what we're going to do is just attach this brick here to the side there. So the wire is now going to be sitting in that channel within the brick, and then we're just going to thread the wire through that Technic plate on the floor just here. So as you can see, that still slides through there nicely, and then we just line that up on the hole there as well, put the two together, and there we have it. It's going all the way down the wall, and there's no pinching on that at all. Now what we need to do is connect this to keep it all in place. Now with these connector boards, they do have a sticky part on them, so you can actually attach it, and it does come, each of these packs come with a tile which you can stick it to, and then that keeps it all in place. Now what I'm intending to do is use the tiles just to keep everything in place. So you've got one just on this side here, and then we'll stick another tile in this part here. Now I haven't been finding that these move at all, so I haven't had any problems at all with that. With the buildings that I've built on so far, I have had it so that this part here is 4 studs wide. So I've had a tile going along this side as well, which has worked absolutely perfectly. And just to show you how simple it is to get the lights working on here, here we have the floor, and as soon as you put it on there, the lights come on. Take it off, it switches off, back on again. So yeah, it is an absolute game changer in my opinion. And it's just nice that you can have your 2 floors totally separate. You don't have to connect the wires from floor to floor to get the building all lit up. And here we have one final technique for keeping your wires nice and tidy on a building. And this is really good if you've got a second skin of wall, or if you're putting it in a cupboard and you don't want the wires to get pinched. And it's just use one of these Technic bricks, the 1x1, and if you pop that through the cable, attach that to your wall, and then you can use these modified bricks here, which have got the groove in them, and they work perfectly for just keeping that wire all in place. And then just carry on with that technique. So put another Technic brick in. You don't need to put too many Technic bricks in if you don't want to. They're just to stop the wire from falling down. And obviously these bricks here, they're just used there to build your wall up. But there you have it. The wire's now built into the wall, and there's no pinching on that wire at all. So another technique which I love using in my mocks, as I do find it's a good way of building. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful in some way or another, and hope you got something from it. If you haven't done so, I'd highly recommend checking out Game of Bricks website. They have got some fantastic lights, and once again, a massive thank you to Game of Bricks for providing the lights for Gotham City. It really is appreciated. And if you use the code DUBBZI, you will receive 25% off of your order. So yeah, check them out. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. Until the next time, bye for now.